Hello, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to anti-haul number 20, I think. I've been doing these for a hot minute. So I like to make anti-haul videos to talk about tarot and oracle decks that I'm not going to buy, that I've decided not to back on Kickstarter, or that I've decided not to keep. And the premise of this is that I like to mindfully check in with myself and compare things, whether it's something I've just gotten or something I'm considering buying, against things that I already have and could make more use of. So this is a great way for me to just sort of check myself when I'm tempted to just smash the buy button and be like, no, Lisa, we can chill out. We have other things that are like this. We're talking about ourselves as if we're a we. Anyways, you get the point. So that's the point of an anti-haul. It's not to trash decks or trash creators. My point here is just to talk about the things that I've talked myself out of and what sort of scratches the itch from my own collection and why I therefore don't need whatever the thing is that I've decided I don't need. That's kind of the point. If you're new here, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. If you enjoy conversations about tarot and oracle, divination, decks, all that kind of stuff, you're in the right place. I make lots of videos about these topics. So hit the subscribe and let's get started. I want to start off with talking about some decks I think I'm not keeping. Now, as with anything I decide to not keep, declutter, etc., typically these things will go into a purgatory drawer. I want to make a video with sort of taking on a tour through my purgatory drawer. It's kind of messy. I haven't done it yet because it's kind of messy. And it's kind of messy. But I have heard the requests and I will see what I can do. I might just have to haul everything out of the purgatory drawer and just show them to you. We'll see. We'll see. But in any case, these are things that I think I've decided probably are not going to stay. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why. And then we'll get into some stuff I'm not going to buy. So things I'm not keeping. The first of these, oh man, I got so swept up in the Book of Shadows Kickstarter campaign. I mean, I don't even know where to begin. This is was such an incredible and fun experience, and I think it was the experience I was after more so than the deck. I think I knew that when I backed it. If you missed this, The Book of Shadows, An Alchemist's Story by Andrea Aste? I'm not sure how to say that. This guy is an incredible artist and illustrator, and he put so much heart and soul into this campaign. Let me just show you some of the cards while I talk about it. Well, actually, before I show cards, there was like a whole mockumentary, like a fake documentary with like Mary K. Greer in it and all these people. And it was just this, I watched that. That was a lot of fun. There's this gorgeous hardbound graphic novel that gets into everything. I will say I had a little trouble reading this just because the text is so small, but like it's readable and I'm old, I guess now. So it's probably more a reading glasses issue than anything. With my reading glasses, it was fine. But this is a great little story, and it's such an immersive world that Andrea created, and he just did an incredible job. The deck itself comes in a tuck box. It's very colorful, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a surefire win for me. This is what the backings look like. And it is a really beautiful deck. I enjoyed flipping through it a few times. I just don't think this is something I'm going to actually read with. Like I said, I think I was drawn into this world and this story, but I was drawn into it from a distance. I just dropped cards, but I caught them with my thighs. I think that's like a new special skill. Anyways, I was really drawn into this world, but there are other worlds that actually invite me into them to read with. I feel like this was something that I enjoyed from the perspective of the whole Kickstarter story and the experience and just how immersive everything was. But purely for its own sake, I just knew when I got this in that this wasn't going to be a deck that I was going to reach for. But I have to tell you, I got so much out of the experience of bringing this in, and I don't know how else to explain that besides to say that's the case. As you all know, I am a real sucker for story, and there is so much story in this, and I love it. But yeah, when it came down to just the deck for its own sake, I realized, no, probably not going to stay. So I think I've decided that this one is going to be purgatory at least, and likely going to ultimately end up finding a new home. But I do have a deck that I received that feels also very immersive and story driven, that I do enjoy kind of for its own sake, like just out of the box as a reader. And that is the Slavic Legends Tarot. Now I mean, like it even comes in like a book shaped box. I mean, like there's even a bookmark at the top there. This is such a gorgeous, gorgeous deck. I got the matte version with the blue backings. I do like the other backings better, but I like this cardstock better. In any case, this deck is so gorgeous. Now, Tarotteca Studios, I think is who does this. Yes. Tarotteca Studio has now has a majors only guidebook talking about their inspiration for the stories. So that is now available as a PDF you can get from them. If you missed out on that announcement, just check their social media, their Instagram. You can definitely get a hold of that now. Oh, well, those cards are definitely on the floor. My thighs did not catch them this time. I need to stop stacking things on other stacks of things. Anyways, this deck is absolutely gorgeous. It's also very, very story driven. Gosh, I love that Empress card. I mean, I just love this world, and it invites me in, and I enjoy reading with this for its own sake, even without knowing the stories, and I think that's really what the tipping point is for me. I wouldn't say that this deck and the Book of Shadows Tarot have a similar vibe, but they both have that sort of world-building characteristic about them, and I have other decks that do that. The next decks, yes, two of them, that I think I've decided I'm not going to be keeping are the Wild Child Tarot and the Wild Child Oracle. Now, again, remember, these are going into purgatory. They're not being rehomed right away or anything like that. But I think this is more a matter of the fact that my heart is already with a different deck by the same creator. So I'll talk about that momentarily. But if you missed my full exploration of this deck and the Oracle deck that accompanies it, I'm going to link that up in the cards for you. If I can remember to do that, I will link that up in the cards for you. But if not, you can just look up Wild Child on my channel and you will find my full exploration of both the tarot deck and the Oracle deck. Now, these had both been sent to me by the creator for the purposes of review. I had only been expecting one of them. I can't recall which. I think it was the Oracle, and they sent me the tarot as well. I mean, the Oracle is really beautiful. And I will admit that part of me wants to give this one another chance. It's really pretty. But so far, I have not bonded with it. So I think I'm going to just put it away for now and see if I'm called to it at a later date. So that and the Wild Child Tarot and Oracle are going to be going into my purgatory drawer. And that's mostly because I love the Healing Waves Tarot so much. I keep all my decks in bags, by the way, if you're new here, if you don't know. My wife makes all my bags for me, so I'm super spoiled. I have unique bags for all of my decks. But anyways, the Healing Waves Tarot, this is the one that's out of print. This is the same creator as the Wild Child Tarot and Oracle, but the Healing Waves is just the one that stole my heart. I have an original of the original painting that the creator had actually sent to me of one of these cards. This one was one that just took my breath away, and I got very invested in the campaign for this. I was so excited when it came in. It's a lovely quality deck, and I just really, really thoroughly enjoy this. It's a perfect oceany, summery, beachy tarot. I love it so much, and I think the problem for me with Wild Child Tarot is that it hits a little too similar to this one for me, and therefore I just don't think I would reach for those other ones. So love my Healing Waves Tarot. This next one, I'm still on the fence about, but I'm so glad that I backed this on Kickstarter and supported the creator. I really believe in this project. It's the Tarot Ultraviolet. This is a fantastic deck. Like, objectively, it's really, really good. I suspect that my main issue with working with it, with just not wanting to reach for it, is because I have other things that I already tend to reach for in the circumstances with which I would reach for this. It's a really lovely little independent deck. It's all in French, and it's very, very diverse and wild. I don't think I quite realized when I bought it, or maybe I did and I forgot, that it seems to have quite a heavy Thoth influence. And I really feel it in this deck for some reason. I feel it enough that it kind of throws me a little bit when I'm working with it or trying to work with it. But what I love about it is just the representation and the wildness. I love that about it. I love the way that I feel like so many people can see themselves in this particular deck. I think in a way I was, oops. I really am just determined to throw and drop cards today. But anyways, I really just think there's so much about this that I love. But I found when I would work with it, some of the cards just didn't hit the way that I wanted them to hit. And so I would just find myself not reaching for it. But I love the rebelliousness of it so much. So there's that. I don't know if this is one that I will actually be able to bring myself to let go of or not. I have done quite a bit actually of working with it with my with the Deck and Walk studies. I've done a lot of work with it. I'm looking at it more than I'm sharing it, but it's just some of the cards just don't quite hit for me, but a lot of them do. A lot of them do. So I don't know. We will see. But I think this one is going into purgatory for now because I'm just not inspired to reach for it at all. That being said, this is one of those sort of small run decks that I don't think is going to be easy to get for a long, long time. And I'm not saying that to give you any kind of FOMO. It's just I don't think that the person who created this is interested in being like a tarot creator full time or anything. I think this was a project that mattered to them. So I definitely don't want to be in a hurry to let this go because I think it's one I could end up regretting if I let it go, but it's definitely going into purgatory. And the deck that sort of seems to keep beating it out for me, especially lately, is the Rainbow Moon Tarot. This is what the backings look like. And the hollow sides. This is a mass market, and I really enjoy this. I was not reaching for this. If you saw my last this or that, I wasn't reaching for this because I was struggling to sort of figure out who was a queen and who was a king rank-wise in this deck because they've all been renamed. So I took a Sharpie and I put Q's on the queens so that I remembered that the Chancellor is the queen rank. And I put K's on the kings and the problem was solved. And I was like, oh, this is really a great deck. What I love about this is it also is very rebellious. It has a lot of the same sort of like representation that the Tarot Ultraviolet has. Love this Nine of Wands so much. It's so good. And I love this sort of alien vibe. It gives the impression that all sorts of beings are in this world. And I really like that. See, like the Chancellors are, yeah, there's another Chancellor. There's the Queens. Ugh, I really love it. I love all the different colored hair. And so I find myself really excited to reach for this. And I think for that reason, this is one of the reasons why the Tarot Ultraviolet, and it's funny, sorry, let me not interrupt myself. I think this is one of the reasons why the Tarot Ultraviolet is being neglected is because I just really love this one. And I love all the colors and the vivid scenes. And I'm a big fan of Sam Rook. I believe it used to be Sam West, but Sam Rook's artwork. There's just something about it I really like, and I believe the Sweet Forager, which is another deck that Sam is working on, is coming out soonish, so I'm keeping my eyes out for that too. But I really, really love this deck, and because I love it so much, I'm not sure if the Tarot Ultraviolet and I are going to be getting along over the long term. And now it's time to talk about mass market decks I'm not going to buy. So I have scooted over to create space for screenshots that I can share with you because these are decks that I don't have because I didn't buy them, and I'm planning not to buy them. Famous last words. Anyways, that's why I've scooted over. So the first one I want to talk about is the Pastoral Tarot by Lisa Hunt, published by US Games. Oh my goodness. I watched this with great interest as it was being created. I watched the art updates. I follow Lisa Hunt on Instagram and on social media. Maybe not Instagram, Facebook. I follow Lisa Hunt on social media is the point. And I really adore Lisa Hunt's artwork and her art style. And the Pastoral Tarot just looked so serene and beautiful. And I loved that the whole thing was illustrated in landscape style. I know I'm doing a terrible job of talking anybody out of this deck. It's very peaceful. It's very calming. It's very serene to look at. But there's something about it. I was like, I don't know for sure if a landscape deck would work for me. That's part of it. And the other part of it is that I wanted to be swept away into the world. And it's just a touch on the mundane side for me. I think I need a little more magic or a little more whimsy in my decks. And while it's serene and beautiful and calming and so much like a vacation in a deck, it doesn't quite take me away from this world enough, I think. I feel like I either want to be right in this world, like with a grounded, like mundane deck, like the This Might Hurt Tarot, for example, or I want to be completely out of it. Or I want enough magic or something to sort of still be a bit of an escape, if that makes any sense. And so I decided not to pick up the Pastoral Tarot, although, you know, no promises, because as I've admitted before, sometimes I anti-haul decks and then later I end up with them. That's a thing that's happened before. So like, I'm not promising, but for now, that's my stance. The deck that I feel like does this job for me instead is the Tarot of the Witch's Garden. This is the one by Sasha Graham and published by Llewellyn. Oh my gosh, this deck transports me so quickly and easily I love this world. It feels just grounded enough to feel like it's part of the earth in a way, but like maybe just like one step over in a slightly different dimension, you know? It has that combination of being grounded in beauty and nature that I could recognize, but also whimsy and magic that obviously I don't get to experience in my, waking hours. I love this deck. I love the cardstock. I love the scenes. I love the magic of it. I love the art so much. I really, really do. The illustrator for this deck is an incredible artist. I love it. Love her work. And this is totally my jam from an art style perspective. I'm very drawn to sort of storybook style artwork. I just love this so much. So much. I adore it. So this definitely scratches my itch for a sort of escape, getaway tarot, I guess you could say. I love the Tarot of the Witch's Garden. And as I'm filming this, I've been working with this deck a lot. Like I haven't been able to move away from it since I started working with it, which is usually a really good sign that me and a deck are getting along really, really well. Another deck that I have really gone back and forth a lot about whether I was going to pick it up is the Tarot of Tales. So, man, I really was excited about this for a long time, and it's part of me still kind of is. My hesitation has been the more muted color palette, and I know that when I have a deck with a more muted color palette, I have a tendency to not reach for it unless it really blows me away. And so that was one of my hesitations. But I have to tell you, from what I understand about the guidebook, first of all, this is the same creator that did the Elemental Power Tarot. And what was really unique about the Elemental Power is that in the Major Arcana, it was very first-person narrative style. And it really takes you into the artwork and into the scenes and encourages you to be a part of that world, or is written as if you are a part of that world. And that's what I understood that the Tarot of Tales would kind of be like. And I got a chance to hold a copy and look at it in person when I was visiting Don Michel in May, and I still was on the fence. And when the push came to shove, I decided I don't think I need it. As much as it pulls me into its world a little bit, and I love that, it felt more removed than I expected when I held the cards in my hands. And I think it's a really unique, innovative, well-done deck. I just don't think I necessarily need it because I have two other decks that sort of do that job for me. And one of them has the sort of, I wouldn't say muted, but calmer, slower energy. And that is the Spacious Tarot. Y'all, okay. This was a deck that I anti-hauled a long time ago, and the creators reached out to me and asked if I was interested. And it was right around the same time that I had been kind of second guessing whether I wanted it or not. So it was perfect timing. And I have to tell you, this deck really has surprised me in the best possible way. I did a full deep dive walkthrough into all of the cards, including the expansion pack, which is mixed into my deck. I put this through its paces during my live member reading event. So basically, I have a channel membership here, and in that membership for Magical Unicorn tier and up, so for my Magical and Badass Unicorns, I go live once a month. And I do live readings, and people can submit their questions in advance, and I do them when I go live, whether they're there or not. And what I really love about those live streams is that I get a chance to test my decks and really put them through a lot of different scenarios and readings and see how it reads in a quick fire kind of way. And man, the Spacious Tarot so delivered in that context. It did such a wonderful job. And there's something about this deck that, as some of you agreed with me, it sort of slows me down a little. When I was walking through it even, I felt like I just slowed down. And as many of you know, I'm not a slow person. I'm a fast talker, I'm a fast thinker, and a fast typer. And there's not a lot of things that sort of kind of get me out of that space. And this Spacious Tarot, really, there's something about it that just feels settling, but also connecting. It doesn't feel distant or removed from me at all. I feel like I'm in it. But not that it doesn't feel like I'm actively in it. I feel like I'm passively in it. It feels a little bit like, and I haven't said this before, but this deck feels a little bit like how I feel like remote viewing or astral travel feels a little bit. Like you're there, but you're also not fully there. You're there in spirit, if that makes sense. This feels like that. So it's a little bit less dynamic and a lot peaceful and a lot intuitive. I feel like this deck just reads really, really, really well. So now that I have this, I just felt like I didn't really need the Tarot of Tales. And I wouldn't say that these decks are the same. The Tarot of Tales has a very sort of whimsical storybook feeling about it. There's like animals, and it's got this kind of storybook. Did I already say storybook? It's got that kind of feeling. And this has a totally different feeling, but I feel like the purpose of them, or the way that they made me feel to look at them, that's welcome to my brain. This is how it works. I guess that's the punchline. So that brings us to indie decks I'm not going to buy. This next deck I have thought about for literally years now. And it's one of those decks that whenever I'm not actively looking at it, like at a walkthrough or a video about it, I'm kind of thinking it's one that I'll regret if I don't get it. And it's the Abyssal Tarot. Now, I'll try to show some images, or maybe just an image so you know what deck I'm talking about. This is an independently produced deck. It's got this very sensual feeling about it. It's like photography, but it's got this blurry, watery, flowy fluidity about it that I just really find hard to describe. For a long time, when I would look at images of this deck online, I didn't realize that there was like key phrases or key words, like sort of tinily, wow, I'm making up words now. In tiny print, there's these like phrases or words on every card, like in this like little piece of the border. There's something really magical about this deck when I look at it. And I think it's one of those things, one of those decks that I appreciate generally. But then whenever I really sit and look at a walkthrough or look at somebody talking about it where they're showing a lot of the cards, I realize that I don't know if, I feel like it's the sort of, what am I trying to say? I feel like it's sort of the entirety of the deck that enchants me, and not so much individual cards or like the idea of working with it on an individual card basis. Does that make any sense? It's kind of like you can really love a story, but not be sure you are necessarily in love with any one particular character in that story, but you love the story. Does that make sense? It's almost like that for me with the Abyssal Tarot. And I think that's something I've been sort of identifying for myself. I keep being worried it's going to go out of print and then I'm going to be sad that I didn't get it. And I think, no promises, I think I finally reached a point where I realized that it is a thing that I enjoy appreciating, but not a thing I would likely use. And so I had to really sort of work my way through the process. And when it comes to beautiful, special things, the thing that scratches my itch, even though I wouldn't say artistically that these things are at all alike, but the thing that scratches my itch for the Abyssal Tarot, believe it or not, is my Tarot of Delphi. This is an out-of-print deck that is difficult to get your hands on, and I was very, very generously gifted this from a viewer of my channel, and it was just such a kind, special thing for them to do, and I treasure this deck. And so when I'm just craving wanting to sit and look at beautiful things, this is one of the things I will pull out, and I'll literally pull this deck out and sit on my bed and look through the images and read the guidebook entries and do a little reading for myself and just appreciate it for its beauty. This is one of those things that it literally does feel like, I don't know how to describe it. It feels like that art book or something, like this thing that I just get to, a beautiful thing that I get to appreciate. It sort of calls to the, I don't know, the Venus in me, the Libra in me. I don't know. It feels like it sparks something about beauty in me. And I think that's what the Abyssal Tarot does. And I think I don't need a lot of things like this in my collection of beautiful things. I don't need a lot of decks that I just want and appreciate for their beauty, if that makes sense. I like having tools, and I do like having a few things like the Tarot of Delphi or my Quarta de Tarocchi that I just really enjoy for the totality of what they are and not so much for their components as much. And so the Tarot of Delphi, when I think of the Tarot of Delphi and how much I appreciate the beauty of it and having it and being able to look through it and occasionally read with it, I do occasionally read with it. When I think of that, I'm like, I don't need many things like that. And so this can kind of make me feel like I don't need more. I don't need another thing that's going to be there as just a beautiful thing to look at. I don't think. That's where I've landed with it. We'll see if I continue to be strong in that way. But I really think the Abyssal would be a thing I would collect and not a thing I would use. And while there's nothing wrong with that, I like things that I use for the most part. for the most part. The next indie deck that I have successfully talked myself out of, at least for the moment, is the Where Alice Went Oracle. This is on Etsy, and it is a really unique Alice in Wonderland themed Oracle deck that has these text backgrounds and then some simple images, great keywords on the front. The text in the background, though, is text from the book, and it's text from the book that aligns with whatever is on the front of the card. It's a very well thought out, clever Oracle deck, and I'm kind of a sucker for Alice things. I am trying to rein it in when it comes to Alice things and kind of failing. More on that later, but I do have a couple of Alice things that I do really love, and I thought about this Where Alice Went Oracle. I've thought about it a lot, actually. And I think I've landed that as beautiful as this is and as cool as it is, and it sort of speaks to the part of me that just loves the story so much, I feel like this is a thing that I would tend not to reach for in favor of another Alice Oracle that I really love and have bonded with. So let me put that picture away. I'll show you the one that I love. If you've been watching me for a while, you probably know what's in here. And this is actually in a bag that has Alice quotes on it because my wife loves me and makes me pretty bags, often with fabric that I pick out for her. But in any case, this is the Alice the Wonderland Oracle by Lucy Cavendish and with art by Jasmine Beckett Griffith. I really like this. Not only do I love this for its own sake, even though it kind of feels like a collab deck because some of the art style across the cards is not at all congruent, but with that said, what I love about this is that it's very kind of shadowy. There's a lot of cards here that will call you out, and I really love that about the Alice the Wonderland Oracle because I feel like the Alice in Wonderland story has a lot of shadow in it. It has a lot of self-discovery, a lot of like bumping up against your fears and your insecurities, and so a deck that really plays into that energy, it's really great to work with. And I use this right next to my Baba Studios Alice Tarot, and it works really well, even though artistically they look nothing alike. So here's an example of one that just doesn't follow the same art style as the rest, but they're all Jasmine Beckett Griffith. And I mean, it doesn't even really bother me that some of them have these weird borders on them because they weren't formatted to fit these cards, you know? Like, look at how narrow this piece is and how it's been bordered funky just to, like, make it fit on the card. Like, I don't even care. The messages are really good. Lucy Cavendish, I really enjoy her writing style, and so the guidebook is fantastic. I love this card so much. Anyways, this is such a great... Look at this, like, Starry Night sort of Alice mashup. It's so good. It's so good. And I've gotten a lot of use out of this deck and I really enjoy it. It's a mass market. This is on that Blue Angel, glorious, thick, luscious cardstock that is difficult to shuffle but feels really expensive. You know, it's that one. I really love this deck a lot. And so I don't know that I need the Where Alice Went Oracle, although I am enchanted by it, at least from a distance. And the last indie deck I've decided that I'm not going to buy is... with much hesitation, the Energy Archaeology Oracle. This deck, it looks incredible, and it really, really hits me in the feels because I'm an anatomy geek and I've spent a lot of years studying the skeletal system and the muscular system and the fascial system. And I have a thing about the body and the bones, and there's something about this that really speaks to me, but I think what I've realized, looking at a bazillion different videos about this deck and trying to make up my mind, is that I'm enchanted by it because it's a very, very, very well thought out deck, and it has what looks to be an incredible guidebook. In fact, I believe Dawn Michelle just highlighted the guidebook recently in a video about guidebooks that sort of make the deck for her. I'll try to remember to link that video down below for you. But this deck... the guidebook looks incredible, but I think what I realized is that because I have my own thoughts and feelings about the body and about the bones, I think it was kind of hitting that same spot that like chakra decks often hit for me, where because I have my own thoughts, feelings, and opinions about the chakras, for example, I can be really picky about how somebody else associates energy or keywords with the chakras. And I think it's the same thing with the bones. I think what I realized is that I didn't necessarily want a deck looking at somebody else's view of the bones, if that makes sense. And I don't even entirely know that I want a body-based oracle like this. I was excited because of the subject matter and how thorough and like meaty the guidebook is, and like the potential for studying somebody's perspective on the body and like healing and all of that. It looks really beautiful. Like I'm just kind of trying to figure out where my no was again. Oh yeah. And then I was thinking it was just like probably going to be one of those things where my own opinions would override, and then I would be like picky about it and then not reach for it. I think that's kind of where I landed, but it's beautiful. It looks really, really well done. With that said, I think the deck that scratches my itch when it comes to a bones sort of oracle is my Oracle of Oddities. This is Oracle of Oddities 1, 2, and 3. So it's all 3 editions. It makes just a wonderfully chunky, nice, this cardstock is great to shuffle, oracle deck. This deck reads so well for me. It's very expansive, and it's not specific to the bones, but bones do feature in it, which gives me a layer that I can work with if I like from an intuitive perspective without being told what the bones mean. I can choose to work with them or not. And not all of these bones I think are chosen. In fact, most of them I think they're chosen more for aesthetics than for any kind of symbology. But there are times when it really, really makes sense. Obviously, the hand here with hope really works. But I'm just trying to think if there's some here that can say what I'm thinking. There's also chakra cards in here since I mentioned chakras. Relevant. I love working with chakras. I really, really love this. I really love this. I feel like there's a vulnerability to it and a beauty to it. But what I really love most about the Oracle of Oddities is I love their choice of keywords. I love how balanced it feels, and I love how expansive it is, which I think that was the piece that was missing for me with the Energy Archaeology Oracle, is that I don't think it would have been nearly as expansive. So I feel like it would have boxed me in a little bit more in that way. Love these. Oh, I love this deck so much. It's such a solid deck for me. So yeah, I really, really love Oracle of Oddities. I'm so glad I took a chance on it a while back, and it's just become a favorite, an absolute favorite. So I really love it. And that sort of scratches my itch for not necessarily needing the Energy Archaeology Oracle. And that brings us to Kickstarters I didn't back. There's more than these 2 that I'm going to mention, I'm sure, but these are the 2 that kind of came front of mind because I felt like some significant thoughts to share about both, or at least some more than just a couple of words to share about both. The first of these is the Sylvankind Oracle. This was really hard for me to talk myself out of because I really, really love Gregory White's art. I follow him on social media. I watched the creation of his tarot deck, which I really think is beautiful, and ultimately also talked myself out of. I don't know if I can fully explain myself, besides to say his is artwork that I really genuinely love and appreciate. There's something about it that feels very heart-centered and very genuine, and I was going to say genuine and authentic, but those kind of mean the same thing. There's something about it that just feels really, really real, and I think his work deserves support. I think the thing with the Sylvankind for me was a timing thing more than anything else, because I genuinely really, really love it. I may still get it at some point, but I decided to hold off on the Kickstarter because at the time that this was funding, I had also just gotten a tree-themed oracle deck, and I didn't want to neglect that deck in honor, while thinking about another, if that makes sense. Like, it was too soon to cheat on the one that I'd got. So the tree deck that I had gotten in is the Tree Spirit Oracle by Mags Black. I feel like it was Maggie Black. Anyways, this is the Secret Garden edition, and oh my gosh, talk about spirit of the trees. This is an indescribable deck. And it's one of those things I don't know I can articulate, besides to say, like, so what she's done is she's done photography on her forest walks, and then she mirrored the image like a Rorschach, and you get these incredible beings that come through, these incredible faces, and they're so... It really trips me out, to be honest. In fact, some of these cards, when I first pull them, I'm like, I don't really see anything. And then I'll be doing my reading, and I often take a picture of my readings when I do them. And I'll look at the picture, and then I'll see it, and I'll be like, oh, there he is. and it's incredible. It's just incredible. I don't know that you can see it or experience it the same way on camera. Like, I don't know if it shows up. This is one of my favorites. I love him so much. Look at him. Look at him. I love them. I love them so much. So there's another version of this, the original one, which has more autumn and winter trees. I think that's the original Tree Whisper Oracle. But this is the Secret Garden edition. This is the one that I decided to get, and I love it. So this had just come in, or was, I think, being like en route to me when the Sylvan Kind was funding. And I was like, I can't. Like, I really need to get to know the Tree Spirit Oracle before I get a different tree spirit-based Oracle deck. But Sylvan Kind looks really beautiful. It reminds me a lot of the Guardian Tarot by Beth Salonen, if you remember that deck. That was kind of all the rage for a little bit. And I had that deck and did some beautiful work with that deck for a long time. And it's kind of funny. I ended up rehoming it, and I heard from the person who ended up with it at one point. And it was so fun to hear back, like to know where it ended up. It's kind of one of those cool things about rehoming decks. But anyways, I babble. The point is, I decided not to get the Sylvan Kind for now, but it's very much still on my radar. If you end up getting it, I'd love to hear what you think about it. Maybe you could tip me over the edge. And the other Kickstarter that I decided not to back is the Alleyman Oracle, Alleyway Tarot and Oracle. I feel like I thought this was just an Oracle deck. And when I went to the campaign to look at it, I saw it was like another Tarot and an Oracle. The thing about the Alleyman/Alleyway stuff in general is it's really, 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 really intoxicating, and it's very easy to get swept up in it. I got swept up in the first Kickstarter campaign for the Alleyman Tarot, and I had so much fun getting that deck in and opening it and looking through it and exploring it and like looking at every card, and like it felt like looking through a giant tarot catalog. And it was kind of an expensive giant tarot catalog. Like, it was well worth it. Don't get me wrong. And Peggy and I did an incredible giveaway with extra copies of that deck. But it was a lot of fun. But as soon as I had it in my hands, I knew I was never going to read with it. And I tried a few times just to like see what would happen. That was a no for me. That was a no. So I knew I wasn't going to want to get this other one. There's something about the chaos of it that just doesn't really work for me. Like, as a toy, if that's probably sounds terrible, but like as something to just play with, to flip through, to look at, to appreciate, much like I talked about earlier with the Abyssal and the Tarot of Delphi. As something like that is like a beautiful object. I think it's a really unique thing, and I think it's got a really cool story to tell. And there's a lot of work that Seven puts into sort of creating this environment that feels really like it draws you in. And all of that is super fun, and it's tempting to want to just dive into it all over again. But I'm like, I know I wouldn't keep it when it came in, so I need to not. I just need to not. There's nothing really else in my collection I could think of that really scratches the itch for that, because I'm not sure there really even is an itch for that. I suppose if I really was itching to have a deck made up of lots of other individual cards, I could just literally tear open a bunch of I could get into a bunch of my decks and put something like that together just for fun to see if I liked it. But like, I've tried it before with the first one, and I didn't really end up loving it. So I think that was my lesson learned, was like, this is not a thing for me. This is not a thing for me. So that's it, my friends. Those are all of the decks I have managed to talk myself out of for the moment. And I hope this was helpful. I like doing these anti-hauls because I think it's interesting to show my own internal process for how I decide when to pull the trigger and when maybe not to when it comes to purchases. I have a huge collection. I only have so much wall space. Although Peggy said I could take over the hallway. So, I mean, it's only a matter of time before I expand. But I love having lots of beautiful things, but I'm in this really interesting space where I love having variety in the decks that I have and that I use. But when the variety reaches a certain point, when my collection grows beyond this sort of invisible threshold that I seem to have, that's when it stops feeling like I have this beautiful variety, and it starts feeling like I just have too much stuff, and it becomes overwhelming. And so I have to always, for my own personal comfort and enjoyment of this hobby that I love and this practice that I love, I sort of have to like walk this line between enjoying bringing in new beautiful things, sort of in some ways leveling up my collection in times, like sometimes something comes in and something else goes out because it just does a better job of whatever that thing is. So I do a lot of that sort of thing, but it only grows so much. And when I look at my tarot spreadsheet that shows all my decks, it's really not changed that much in number over the last 3 years or so. I think that's just sort of me realizing this is sort of my sweet spot that I'm at right now. So if a lot of things come in, you'll actually find that this happens on my channel. If you really go back and look, you'll see that when I get a lot of new things, typically that will trigger me to do a round of this or that declutters, or I'll let more things go in my next anti-haul, that sort of thing, because I find that I like each deck to feel like it has sort of a role or a purpose to fulfill, and that's just what works for me. And I don't in any way want to imply that this is the correct way to collect or to use tarot. A lot of us out there, I really just want to normalize. If you have 3 decks, 1 deck, that's fine. And if you have 500, 600 decks, that's also fine. Like, all of us are going to approach this differently, and I just want to normalize that. But this is my space and how I sort of handle it, and what I've learned works for me and what doesn't work for me. But I enjoy doing these anti-hauls to bring you into that process, and to also just sort of have some content here that isn't about just buy, but is about here's what I say no to. And I like doing that in a way that also makes it clear that this is just so subjective and personal. So many of the times, the things that I say no to are the things y'all in the comments are going to have said yes to. And that's beautiful and awesome. So thank you for hanging out with me for this. I love making these videos. I try to get an anti-haul out every couple of months or so. So if this is the kind of content you enjoy, then stick around. Make sure you subscribe. If you're interested in my channel membership, I have a few different tiers. We have a supportive unicorn tier where we do book club and sometimes some random movie watch parties and other fun things. And I have a secret Facebook group for our supportive unicorns and up. And then I have a magical unicorn tier where I do some behind the scenes videos, some extra magical, witchy, or tarot content, and we do a monthly reading live stream that I mentioned earlier. And then we have our badass unicorn tier where we do self-worth work. We do some really meaty personal discussions and have really thoughtful conversations with one another about personal growth and working on our self-worth and that sort of thing. So it's a really beautiful space in there. If you're interested in that, you can click the join button down below, or if you don't see it down below, if you go to my channel homepage, you should see it there. And if neither of those things work, I always have a link to the channel membership in the description box as well that you could pop into your browser. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. And as always, an extra big thank you goes out to my Unicorn Fam channel supporters. You all really help me do what I do here. I appreciate you so much. And to everybody watching, engaging, clicking like, subscribing, all of those things really help the channel. And I appreciate everything you do to engage with my content here. Just you watching is the biggest gift that you give me. So thank you so, so much. And until next time, may your magic always shine from the inside out. Bye.